He is the original Stig. Please welcome Perry McCarthy.
Michael, who is going to stop him? I mean, I just don't know who's going to stop that guy. He's just absolutely fantastic. A lot of people call him the Red Baron. Me, I've always called him Dastardly and Muttley, you know, with Barrichello. That's what they remind me of. Remember Racky Races? Dastardly and Muttley. I just always had this thing there, you know, you've got Schumacher standing there and saying, Rubens, my little free-ridden friend. I have an idea. This is the plan. I will start from the pole position. I will lead the race. You pull in behind, and you weave. You keep some all back. I win the race, and you keep your job. You like? Yeah.
I started motor racing back in 1982, and in 1983 I won the British Championship, and I was tipped by a BBC commentator as a future star. Unfortunately, that was David Icke.
Did you see the one when we had Jamie Oliver come down? Jamie's turned up, and he's got an entourage with him, and Jamie himself has turned up, and he has got a Volkswagen camper van, but with a Porsche engine fitted in the back. And we did a bit of filming where I've taken him around the track as Stiggy, as fast as I can, while he made a salad in the back. And believe me, by the time we got back, that was one toss salad, I tell you. But afterward, he said to me, because he comes from my neck of the woods, he said, "Here, pal, do us a favour." I said, "What's that, James?" He said, "Take us out, will you, flat out, in my brand new Maserati GT, sideways." I said, "You're talking to the right boy, jump in." So off we've gone, I'm absolutely on it, sideways everywhere, all the way around the track, really showing off, pretty much inch perfect, except for the final corner. And I made a mistake. And I've taken him and his brand new Maserati GT straight off the track. I've buried his right rear alloy into a great big pile of stones. We've just pepper sprayed it at about 100 miles an hour. We've hit a big bump. The car's taken off into the air. We've smashed back down into the deck. And I've looked at him and he's gone, "Pucker!" Well, it sounded like that anyway, but
Who's got a sat-nav? A few of you. I'd like to find the German woman who does that. She is vicious. I'm not kidding. You make one mistake with that, and she said, "Make a U-turn. Make a U-turn." You know? I mean, the software is fantastic. They've got it out there now. Why don't they just do one for me where I turn it on and it says, "Good morning, gorgeous." Turn left. Oh, well done. Nobody drives me like you do. That's what I'm looking for. And it makes you happier, doesn't it? It really does. It really does. We've talked about the self-belief, and I just love the feeling it gives me if I succeed, or if I'm faster than my teammates, or if I'm on pole position, you know, you're a bit bubbled up, and you're walking down the pit lane, and you're seeing, making sure you see all the other drivers. "Hey, how you doing? Who's fastest?" "Oh, just me then." Yeah. Just love it. And I draw off that in other walks of life. You know, if I'm a bit down, I think, wow, you get that feeling. And I'm kind of greedy for it. That's why I work so hard, because I want it back. And I really like that. I'm a bit like a Labrador also. I just love a pat on the back. I like to be recognized for what I can do. But, probably like you guys, this is a real team environment. And we've seen McLaren, not last weekend because they won, but the race before that, they were leading. Kimi was screaming away. Zippity-da-da, zippity. But he was just screaming away. He was doing a great job. And the entire thing collapsed because somebody hadn't done up a 2-pound seal nipple on the oil sump. That's why it all went, oh, sorry, not the oil sump. It was a hydraulic issue. But it just wasn't done up, 2 pounds worth. They're spending $250 million a year, these teams, to be out there. So it can go wrong from one person just doing one small thing wrong. The team in Formula One currently consists of many of the larger teams. Have got around 600 people in these teams. You start off with the upper team management, the team directors. You've got the drivers, of course, 2 monkeys at the head of a 600-strong unit. You've got the designers, you've got the fabricators, you've got the transport boys, you've got the engine designers, the engine builders, you've got the design shops inside the Grand Prix teams, because each Grand Prix team manufactures and designs their own car, unlike IndyCar, if ever you wanted to know the difference, plus the fact we turn right as well. Everybody has got a position in this. There's a lot of quality control that goes on all the way through Formula One. But it is a teamwork thing, especially once you get to the circuit, because not all 600 people are there. Then it becomes a real unit, people relying on each other at all times. If we crash, the mechanics will not go to sleep. End of story. There's no question about asking them to do it. They're there. They're doing it anyway. It's what else can I do? Because that's the kind of unit we have. It's a competitive environment. They want to be seen to do well as well. They want to be respected by their peers as being a great mechanic. They like that. There's a whole hierarchy within motor racing. Grand Prix mechanics are proud of being Grand Prix mechanics. Everybody has got to that level, but they're supporting each other. But even though I do totally believe in the team philosophy, and I really, really do, I just come back to the power of the individual thing again, really, because if somebody thinks, okay, I'm part of a team, and they can lean back, in my opinion, they're wrong, because they shouldn't be doing that, because A, they'll be found out, but B, if they've got an important position, that team will fall apart. It's as strong as its weakest link. It's the old expression. So self-belief, coming back to believe that you can do it, to keep contributing to it. So I'm not telling you guys, I'm just rambling on about what I do. I hope you find some of this interesting. But within our sport, as a driver especially, you've got to have that self-belief. I had a couple of really big accidents a while back. I was testing a car I did not want to be in, but they'd asked me as a favour. Cut a long story short, the left front suspension collapsed. You can always tell that when the car doesn't turn in and the wheel flies up in the air. That was followed by 5 layers of catch fencing that I took down because it didn't slow down now the braking system's disarmed, and straight into the wall. Well, that totally destroyed the car. That cracked the crash helmet open. I had blood pretty much all over my face and hands, believe it or not, because they'd gone through. And I got out the car, and my first thoughts were I was really annoyed because I didn't want to be testing the car. And the funny thing was I looked back at the bloody thing, which had been totally destroyed except for the rear wing. Now, the rear wing, an aerodynamic device, is one of the kind of most easy to break. It's articles on the car, and it was intact. So I walked back, stood up on the car, and just smashed it in with my foot. I thought we'd just finished the job. But I had slight concussion. 1 week later, my team asked me to test my car, but with new super development suspension. So that was fine, and we were at Snetterton Circuit, and this is when we had a chicane there called Russell's Chicane. And in motor racing, we talk about different corners, and drivers who are talking to each other will go wide-eyed at the mention of certain corners. This is one of those, because it gets you full attention. You know, you're absolutely on the ragged edge, and if anything goes wrong, you're in big trouble. And it did. I turned in at just over 140, and the right rear suspension collapsed. This is part of the development process they were looking at doing. And it collapsed, and I hit the wall, and the car then took off, barrel rolled, and came down, and there was nothing left of that, and I was out the car. And they got to me, dragged me out, you know, cleared the car off, and then resumed the session, of course, because track time's money. But I came round a little bit later. 4 days later, my team built me another car. I was beginning to wonder about them by this time. This was just in time for the biggest race of the year called the Cellnet Super Prix. And I went out and I did 1 lap, and I couldn't do it. I was shaking. I was doing about 40 or 50 miles an hour, and I'm not kidding you, I was frightened. And the amazing thing for me personally was that is the only time I can ever remember being frightened, because I was frightened. I mean, to the bone. I could not do it. And I brought the car into the pits, and the team were a bit amazed to see me coming back into the pits, but I just wouldn't tell them anything. I turned the car off, and my hands were shaking so much. I just ran them straight in between my legs like that. It's pointless to waste it, but something for everyone. And I just sat there trying to get my head together because I'd had 2 very, very serious blows recently, and I was just trying to get my head together. And for the entire qualifying session, time was running out. But I just, talking about what is capable of inside the old brain box, is I sat there just saying, what do you want to be? And I said, I want to be a racing driver. You're going to go back out? Because if you're going to go back out, you've got to be a racing driver, you've got to be fast. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I was just trying to close out all that fear and close out everything that was distracting me from doing my job and to get on with doing it. And with about 5 minutes left, I'd kind of wound myself up into a complete frenzy and managed to get everything back together, signalled them to start the car, went out, and I only tell this story because it ends well. I set pole position with just a minute to go. So that was something that I was really proud of, because I've never really been that frightened again since then, and I found a way to control it. But it's amazing what you're able to do, and sometimes if there's part fear, part circumspection, whatever, coming in saying you can't do this, you're not good enough and everything else, all I do is shout that bit down and concentrate on what I have done in the past to make sure I can do it.
Did you really drive over the aircraft carrier?
No, I actually would have been killed.
Oh.
Yeah.